We'll be looking at the papers right now to see the headlines across Nigeria, what they're saying, and what stories will interest you this morning. You certainly need to know what's going on. I have with me in the studio Chartered Accountant and Public Affairs Analyst Sheson Kwade, as well as Smart Akwejoye, social commentator. Gentlemen, good morning.
Morning.
Thank God it's Friday.
Wonderful. Yes,
and both of you are dressed for the Friday, ready for Christmas, one way or the other.
Of course, it's close by.
I think I need to take off this suit now.
Let me use the opportunity to congratulate you for a
thank
job
you.
well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Now, let's start from Daily Times this morning. Daily Times is where we start from. Daily Times newspaper says, federal government targets more revenue to fund 2020 budget. The finance minister, Zainab Ahmed, is reported as saying this expresses worry over low GDP growth compared to population. A consequential adjustment to take effect from December salary. Okay, that's some level of assurance there from the federal government. That's what you see on Daily Times. From there, let's go to Blueprint. And Blueprint is focusing on Kano. Ganduje says, I've received requests to dethrone Emir Sanusi. Palace won't comment over matter in court. I guess that's the response from sources in the Emir's palace in Kano. All right, that's what you see on the Blueprint. Daily Trust is where we go next. Closure of Tinkan Port Road. Haulage cost to North up by 32%. And manufacturers accuse officials of sabotage. Okay, Daily Trust is what that's what it says. And News Direct is where we go next, and all governors will pay new minimum wage. Nigeria Governors Forum is revealing this. Okay, all governors will pay new minimum wage in Nigeria. Okay, that's fine. The Nation newspaper is next now. Adoke under interrogation over $1.06 billion Malabu deal. An ex-AGF held on return from Dubai, and government's corruption fight total, says Attorney General, the current Attorney General of the Federation. He's leading the government delegation in that, or government team in that. Okay. Vanguard is where we go next. Malabu, PNID, Adoke returns, arrested by the EFCC. International passport seized, detained at Idiagbon House, Wuse 2, to be quizzed by crack operatives on Malabu. $850 million pay to PNID. I have not been briefed about ex-AGF, Adoke's return to Nigeria. That's Malami, the current Minister of Justice, is saying that. My client returned voluntarily. Michael Zekome insists. Okay, that's the Vanguard. Now let's get to the Daily Sun. Trouble brews for 22 former governors and senators. We are probing them for money laundering. That's the Attorney General of the Federation saying that. Okay. This day is the next one now, and also the last one. Adoke deported from Dubai, arrested by EFCC. Ex-AGF denies any wrongdoing. All right. And we just heard the counsel, or the lawyer says he returned by himself or voluntarily. Nobody barged him to return. Okay. Now, gentlemen, let's get to the story on the front page of Daily Times that says federal government targets more revenue to fund 2020 budget, as reported by the Minister of Finance. Should catch your interest here, and say he expresses worry over low GDP growth compared to the population. We know the population of Nigeria is growing at about around 3% per annum, and then we have the GDP growing less than about 2% thereabout. If you do the mathematics, I'm bad in mathematics, but we have an accountant here. So, so I wonder how troubling this is for you anyway, because we know that the 2020 budget, as much as we celebrate the fact that the cycle of January to December most likely is being restored, but the performance is another thing that Nigerians are concerned about.
See, the perspective about what the minister have just said is that if you must generate revenue, there are basic things that are expected of you. And it will take you back to what I always say, where are the basic infrastructure to make those things to come on board? The minister or the government are actually driving more in the area of taxes. people will pay tax if there are basic infrastructure to carry out what they are supposed to do. So it will be willingly for you to do that. But situations where you don't even have the means of getting the revenue and you have to overtask yourself in such a way that it will eat into your profit where you are supposed to take out the tax, definitely there is no how you'll be able to do this. Before now, it's been a challenge, it's been a problem. And that's why most people will resist the increase in any form of taxation, because the one that have been paid has not been judicially utilized.
No, but if seeing it from that window, the laws, does it allow for people to see what their taxes are being used for before they pay, especially when payment of tax is an obligation that citizens
it's an
have
obligation,
yeah.
and you should reciprocate by telling us what those money are used for. If I don't get value for what, see, the basic infrastructure we are supposed to have is power. Do people struggle to pay tax overseas? You have supply 24/7. You have hiked the price of cost of energy, in the last 3 years. Through MITO, they've been increasing it. But those power has not been available. People have resorted in alternative power supply, which definitely has eaten into their profit. How are they going to pay taxes? The road to where they are going to make deliverable for some of those things are not functional.
Okay. Let me bring in Smart in here. One thing that the minister was quoted as saying that is of concern is the rising population. How does this threaten our development at this point, Smart, from where you see it?
In the first place, our rising population is supposed to be a blessing.
A plus, okay.
Because you see, human capital is perhaps the greatest drive of an economy in a well-structured country.
Yeah.
But you see, sometimes when I sit back and look at the present situation in the country, I marvel at, I perhaps have headache that is it that this government does not have an economic team, or the economic team does not even know what to do? Because we'll expect some certain things that will drive, like I listened to Zainab giving his remark on whatever, on taxation or whatever. You see, when you look at the basic infrastructures, I will take a good example. Some companies pulled out of Nigeria. The major reason they didn't cite even security, which is our major problem. They cited energy. If you see what most of these companies spend providing energy, there are some companies that if the production line is going on, it cannot be stopped, because if it's stopped, most of those raw materials on the machine in the process will be destroyed. So it has to be trashed as waste. They have to go back again. So because of that, what they do is that their production cycle runs on alternative power. Diesel. Constantly, diesel. So at any time they're going to be...
And that's a huge cost.
And that is a huge cost. The cost of diesel, over 260 naira or whatever per liter. You can imagine, and perhaps they use a truck a day, 33,000 liters. They use 33,000 liters in a day to run. So tell me how they will make a profit. Tell me how they will pay correct taxes to the government, that they will not want to probably make this thing. So it's a problem that what this government should have done is to look at critically the area of, look, what are the militating factors affecting production? Number one, it is energy. Number two, it is security. If we tackle this, now you see some companies even paying local boys to protect them. These local boys, they will tell them that if we don't pay them, they will destroy our activities. They will disrupt our activities. This is apart from the police and the regular military, whatever. So why do you have to go through all this? The government, there is a problem. And you see, in as much as, sometimes when I talk about this government, some people will accuse me that, but you campaign for Buhari. I said, yes, I campaign for Buhari, but the simple truth, that does not stop me from saying the right thing that the government should do. It is an aberration that at this point in time, we are looking for how to generate more taxes. We are not looking at the major problem. The major problem is that we must go back to the basis. We must develop our infrastructure.
And energy is one of the critical ones.
Of course, we must develop our infrastructure. Do you know you can even produce in your company in Ogijo, and you're trying to bring it to even Ikorodu, and because of bad road, the trailer, the truck will get spoiled. The truck could capsize and could overturn. And
Because
all,
of
you
bad
lost all your,
roads.
you lost all your this thing. So we're not looking at that. You could be coming, some area boys will just stop you, say if you don't give us this amount, you will not go. These are the areas that the government should focus. If you see, if we put our perspective right, of course, the taxes will flow in. The government are not addressing the issues.
Okay. Now, Sheson, when it comes to revenue generation, this is one thing that a lot of Nigerians have said, well, when government is complaining of lack of funds, the tax net is not spread in such a way that it captures the people it should capture adequately. But so what do you make of this?
You see, tax, like we all know, is an obligation that you are
Of
not
citizens to
supposed
government.
nobody's supposed to force you to pay taxes. It's something you are obliged to do. But you see, people will want to avoid it, just like what Smart has said, because they are not getting value for it. And there is no amount. You see, so many policies have been put in place. Now by January, for you to operate your account, you must have a TIN number, which most states are definitely, you see, I was battling with it on my own yesterday with LRS to make sure that that is done, because once your account is blocked and you are bringing those policy in place, a company that cannot go through that process and its finance is being blocked by beginning of the year, I started having issues. So if these policies must be see through, people must get value. I don't want to go into the economic stuff of it. Let's talk on the elementary that the market women can understand. People in Balogun, or those people those informal sector are serious area of generating revenue. But majority of them, they go into the hands of individual by paying tickets and all those fines that shouldn't be. Most of them
sometimes unremitted to government.
Of course.
Those things don't get to the government, it goes to individual persons. But if the right thing are done, in fact, you see people willingly. I remember the Lagos State, when they had to say payee, people had to just go to the bank. They make it very convenient. And because during the tenure of Fashola and the likes, they got value for what they're doing. People willingly enter into the tax net. So what the government need to do, we don't need to come and say, okay, as economics, these are things. Basic infrastructure must be put in place.
Okay.
When people enjoy it, just like we have in the European world and developed world, people
Naturally,
will willing
it will
to
flow.
They will pay their taxes.
At that
And government will get their revenue.
And then water will find its level.
Let them invest, and they will get revenue. Without investment, no revenue.
Sheson Kwade, thank you so much for your analysis into this. And Smart Akwejoye, thank you very much too.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Right.
Merry Christmas to you. Since we're counting down to Christmas, and I hope
we can see the preparation all over you.
Oh yeah, I'm super ready for Christmas. But then let's look at what we have on the daily newspapers this morning, and we're starting with Daily Times. And Daily Times has this headline saying the FG targets more revenue to fund 2020 budget, says Ahmed, and expresses worry over low GDP growth compared to population. As a rider, it also has consequential adjustment to take effect from December salary. That's concerning the minimum wage. Now let's look at the blueprint. The blueprint has Ganduje. I've received requests to dethrone Emir Sanusi. Very interesting there. You can go to the blueprint to read more about what's going on in Kano. Moving on to the Daily Trust. The Daily Trust has closure of Tinkan Port Road, haulage cost to Northrop by 32%. Manufacturers accuse officials of sabotage. That's what you find on the Daily Trust newspaper. The News Direct has all governors will pay new minimum wage. Nigeria Governors Forum says that. We hope to see that come to reality. Now, in the Nation newspaper, so we have Adoke under interrogation over $1.06 billion Malabo oil. That's what you find on the Nation newspaper, a developing story from what happened yesterday. And on the Vanguard, we have almost the same thing. Malabo, PNID, Adoke returns, arrested by the EFCC. That's what you find on the Vanguard newspaper. Very quickly, let's move on to the Daily Sun. The Daily Sun has trouble brews for 22 former governors, senators. We're probing them for money laundering, says the Attorney General of the Federation. We're going to be seeing a lot of interesting things for the 22 former governors and senators because the AGF plans to probe them for money laundering. And on this day newspaper, we have Adoke deported from Dubai, arrested by the EFCC. Ex-AGF denies any wrongdoing. That's what you find on this day newspaper. But we're going to be looking at what you have, or what we have on the Daily Trust. No, not the Daily Trust. We're going to be looking at the News Direct, which says all governors will pay new minimum wage, says the Nigeria Governors Forum. It seems Christmas gift is coming pretty early for the civil servants. We're going to be having the 30,000 naira minimum wage being implemented. The Nigeria Governors Forum have said it. They all have agreed to pay this minimum wage. What do you think will be the stumbling block? Let's start from you, Smart.
First, let me say congratulations to Nigerian workers that at least all the governors have agreed to pay 30,000 naira minimum wage. Going beyond that, we are going to have more bailouts. We are going to have more bailouts from the states, from the federal government to the states, so that they can meet up, number one. Number two, we're going to have more trouble as it concerns infrastructural development in those states, because when you look at their internally generated revenue and the monthly allocation from the federal government cannot sustain those salaries vis-a-vis the high cost of running and maintaining our political office holders. You see, as far as I'm concerned, we have a problem at hand. We are going to go into another crisis that perhaps will shut this nation down, because this is a nation where we have our governors that they don't think beyond the circle. This is a country where we still have governors appointing over 700 aides, where the first wife, we have almost about 10 aides. The second wife, we have about 7 aides, 15. This is a country where we allocate series of vehicles to the office of the governor, deputy governor, speaker, House of Assembly. God.
So
we are going into a crisis, and this is the country where these people are not even thinking that let them increase their internally generated revenue. Like there was a state I was reading in one of the newspaper. It said we are struggling to generate 1 billion monthly. How much is 1 billion monthly? So even though if they generate 1 billion monthly, that is for the 12 months is going to be 12 billion. Internally generated revenue. What will come from the federal? So when you look at it,
are you saying that? Let me ask you, are you saying that we shouldn't have even discussed this minimum wage, the increment of the minimum wage in the first place, because states cannot develop or generate revenue for themselves?
You see, this news is just a capture as far as I'm concerned, and the government just want to maybe celebrate themselves. As we speak, the current status of 18,000. So many states are owing the civil servants. They can't pay. You can't pay a less wage and you are increasing it.
So federal government have discussed it in the first
federal
place.
Government has given an eye-opener. Do you know the inflation rate as we speak? 11 point something %, the highest so far. What has caused this? Increase in minimum wage and all other things.
Anticipated, you mean?
You know?
Anticipated increase in minimum wage.
Of course, because they've not paid. They are saying they are going to do that this December, or for some state that have. You see, some of the challenge I have is that these governors, they don't think outside. As far as I'm concerned, there is no state that can't pay this 30,000. They can even pay more. But because of the burden they have created for themselves to kind of satisfy the political alliance that is impoverishing the masses is the problem. You discover that the cost of vehicles that each so-called people will use are things that if we spread it abroad, a majority of them are not thinking outside the box.
Even for the former governors, you have a lot of money being spent on former governors also.
The people that have left, you are still paying them. Some of them are serving, they are serving senators. Some of them are serving ministers, but they still collect from the state. And you discover that the civil servant who put the work together are just being improvised. This 30,000, Sarah, if they pay it this month,
The inflation rate as we speak, what is the cost of rice? I'm telling you, I've been advocating to even get, in the last 1 month, they said they will sell lake rice to us in Lagos. It's been difficult to even get. And what is the rate? A bag of rice for this December is going between 22 to 25,000.
But we don't have to eat rice, like Mr. Smart used to say.
You don't have to eat rice? What else do we have? That is what the common food that everybody wants to eat. Okay, is it the yam powder you want to talk of? Is it the oil? Everything. Look at the inflation. So paying 30,000 and giving us that assurance that you can pay. Have you paid the 18,000? Before now, it's been intervention, bailout. Federal government, we have to give them the money. Okay, quickly go and pay. Why do you employ people when you know you cannot pay? And it's high time states start developing things. Every state have resources that they can develop to earn them money. There is no state. There is no state in this country that they don't have those states. But we don't think outside the box. What we want is federal allocation. How I wish they can even withhold. You see, what gives liberation to Lagos State? During Obasanjo regime with Tinubu, he blocked the federal the allocation to Lagos State because he created more local government. And that gave an insight to Asiwaju, and he was able to open up other channels for him to generate internal revenue.
So are you saying that
See Smart? What Smart said is still struggling to make 1 billion. What's 1 billion in a month?
But let's look at how states can move forward now. We've seen where we are. We've seen that it might be impossible to actually pay the 30,000 naira minimum wage, as we call it. But is this the fault of the current governors, or is a successive government problem because they've not been able to think outside the box? So how easy would this be for the new governors?
You see, in the first place, like I said, the governors are not thinking out of the box. You see, the government is not supposed to be the largest employer of labor. No, it is not supposed to be. What the government should do is that they will create an enabling environment for businesses to grow. If you create an enabling environment for businesses to grow, then those people looking for a job in a local government will not come to the state. They will go to where these companies are, get employment, and perhaps you will be generating more tax. The position of the government will be the government employment will be lean. But when we have a very huge government employment and government wants to employ them because they want to score political cheap points. My sister, all it is in the first place is practiced in the wrong way. And that is where we have this issue that is at hand. Government are not supposed to be the largest employer of labor. Go to most of the states outside Lagos. The government agencies are the largest employer of labor. No. Look, take Ogun State, for example. When you look at it, perhaps in their various ministries, there should be those technocrats that knows that will probably follow up what the government are doing in every ministry and the departments. Not them employing large, open a job portal because I want to score political shape point in my 6 months. I have employed so amount of labor. No. Create a neighboring environment. Do you know what it means? Go to Shagamu and see what some of these companies are doing there. You can imagine having those companies in all the local governments in Ogun State. You can imagine having companies in all the local governments in Taraba State. I was watching this thing. There is a tea that they produce now in Taraba State.
Mainland tea.
Yeah.
You understand? You can imagine if that's, and I looked at the employment that it has created. Now, if that is just tea, now let us go to other aspects. Let us go to agricultural value chain. This is the country that will carry yam like that from Benue. We want to export here when we are supposed to process it. I visited a company in Benue State in year 2001. That company was set up by the government to produce fruit juice. Everything is completed up till today. Okay, I can say up till today. Up till then, they have not produced one single bottle or one single pack of fruit juice.
Are you saying infrastructure is a major problem?
Yes. You see, these are not government problems. These are not government problems. We are supposed to have the best juice in Africa from Benue, considering what they have in mango, considering what they have in pineapple. Just mention it. When you go to Benue, when you go to some local government, if you see fruits, you will marvel. And yet, these fruits rot away. You will see children sitting down, eating mango. You will see mango that is so big, and they are rotting away. And these are Benue cannot pay minimum wage. Benue cannot pay 30,000. They even have issue paying
So
18,000.
how easy will this payment be made?
See, if I'll take it from where Smart stopped. This government, what you need to do is make you see, we preach entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship cannot survive in this part of the world because the infrastructures are not there for you to do it. You have all the resources needed to make things happen. We have the best raw materials you can talk of in terms of food, even the agricultural value chain that we're talking about, where we've closed border now. Talked about the milling of rice, talked about other food stuff, because food is what makes a country grow. But those infrastructures are not there. You are only employing civil servant who comes to work once in a week and wants to be paid. You know, but create the environment where people will go out. Businesses are there. The way a private person will manage a business is different from the way government will manage it. You cannot tell me that you won't come to your office today and you get paid. But there are so many civil servants. They will tell you how much are they paying me. But let them go to the private sector. You have to be on your toes. And this revenue that they are talking of in other parts will be able to be, because when you do the work and the people work, they will pay their taxes. And hopefully will be able to generate their revenue.
Hopefully
let them create that enabling environment for business to succeed.
Hopefully the governors will be able to think outside the box and pay this minimum wage.
Yeah.
The last Friday before Christmas.
Wow.
Yeah, we're prepared to go and eat the chickens if they are available.
Exactly, and the goats and the ram and the cow. It's really nice. Okay, let's start with Daily Times. Daily Times is where we start from. Federal government targets more revenue to fund 2020 budget. That's by Zainab Ahmed, the Minister of Finance. Expresses worry over low GDP growth compared to population. Consequential adjustment to take effect from December salary. That's an assurance to those who are concerned. All right, Blueprint newspaper is next. Ganduje this is a story from Kano. And he said, Ganduje, I've received requests to dethrone Emir Sanusi. Palace won't comment over matter in court. I guess that's a response to that. That's what you see on Blueprint. Daily Trust is the next paper now. Closure of Tin Can Port Road. Haulage cost to North up by 32%. Manufacturers accuse officials of sabotage. Okay, I guess we may talk about this shortly. Okay, News Direct is where we go next. All governors will pay new minimum wage in the country. Nigeria Governors Forum is saying this. Okay, The Nation newspaper is next now. Adoke under interrogation over $1.06 billion Malabu deal. An ex-AGF held on return from Dubai, and government's corruption fight is total, says the current AGF. AGF versus AGF. Okay, that's The Nation. The Vanguard is where we go next, and it's still on the Malabu issue. The Malabu PNID, Adoke returns arrested by EFCC. An international passport seized and detained at Idiagbon House, Wuse 2, and to be quizzed by crack operatives on Malabu. $850 million paid to PNID. And I've not been briefed about ex-AGF, Adoke's return to Nigeria. Malami is saying this. And my client returned voluntarily. As Michael Zekome insists here. He wasn't arrested, he wasn't forced home, he came home by himself. Daily Sun is where we go next. And trouble brews for 22 former governors and senators. We're probing them for money laundering. As the AGF is saying this, that's the Attorney General of the Federation. All right, that's what you see on the Daily Sun. This day is the next paper now. Adoke deported from Dubai, arrested by EFCC as ex-AGF denies any wrongdoing. Okay, you find all that on the front page of this day newspaper. Well, gentlemen, the story on Daily Trust that talks about the closure of Tin Can Port Road, and it says the haulage cost to North up by 32%. Might interest you. Manufacturers accuse officials of sabotage. Now, when it comes to the issues around the port is one place that generates a lot of revenue for this country from the custom point of view, import and export, excise duties and all of that. But Nigeria, over the years, have not been able to fix our ports to ensure that everything works according to standards as to how ports across the world operate. I wonder what are your concerns when you sit down and think about the operation of our ports in Nigeria. Smart, let me start with you on this. You've been involved in import and exports at a time.
Yes, you see, sometimes when you look at the problem of this country, we begin to imagine which area do you want to talk about that is not catastrophic. None, perhaps. Let's go to this issue of the port. In the first place, it is wrong that it is only one port that we have that is maximally used. And that is why you see the infrastructures there collapsing every time.
Because they're under pressure.
Because the port there is under pressure. Now, this is only one port again that we do not have a functioning rail line from the port outside. You see, when you look at it now, we are even talking about roads, rail that are not even in existence. Let's thank God that somebody is fixing it for us now. But also, again, let us even go out to the operations of the port. There is no way you will carry out such operations in the port that will make importations very profitable and that will not send the prices back to the public. This is a country where we don't have scanners that work very well. Where at a point, I imported Jews sometime in the year 2000. And they said, or year 2001 or 2, they said it's physical examination. Do you know what they did? They offloaded all the containers.
All the containers
contents.
of Jews.
They offloaded it. Now, offloading it is going to be at your cost. You, the importer. There are people doing that. Now, if they are going to reload it, it cannot go in. Do you see that? In the cost of that, so many cartons were damaged. In the cost of that, the customs will just say, okay, put this aside.
At your own cost.
At your own cost. So definitely you will run at a loss. It made huge loss doing that. Now, what stops us from having scanner? You see, if we can have scanners that when you pass, it will see everything, even underneath what you are wearing. What stops us from having such scanners? All you just need to do is sit by this side. From the office, somebody is seeing it. Even physically, you the importer, just do say, okay, this is your container coming, stay here. They will just go, we saw something different. Can you please move this container to this way?
All right.
They will do a rescanning. But you see, infrastructures have collapsed, and there is no way where they go through this that they will not pass the cost. It will. Are we supposed to? Look, you even saw all our roads now. Containers trailers taking over everywhere.
Okay. Let me bring Chesson here. You are very much into the economy professionally and also practically. When manufacturers are accusing officials of sabotage, your word against my word, we are all supposed to work together, but somehow I suspect you're doing something and you're suspecting I'm doing something and all of that. Why do we have situations like this?
You see, the mode of operation at the port, as far as I'm concerned, is at this jet aid that we're talking about is quite alarming. If I borrow part of what Smart said, scanner, in this part of the world, I was on my way to Israel and had a stopover in Turkey. And the level at which they scanned my bag, I hid one oil that they say should not pass through. Roll it, you know, when you're coming from Israel, you buy all buyables. And I roll it inside a cloth, inside another cloth, and eat it at the middle. And when the scanner was going, they said, sir, can we have this? This cannot pass over. I was shocked. This is what technology is doing. Imagine offloading and loading back, and the importer is losing the time wasted, the money. Come about after you have done that. The modes of payment is not automated. It's subjective. Somebody will just tell you, see, if you are buying anything from that other side, because of their policy, they don't bid things, they don't sell things at $2,000 and say it's $1,005. You understand? They give the accurate because they have returns they have to make. If you ask them, can you please increase the Nigerian factor? This thing is 5,000. Can you please, because I want to take receipt to my office, make it 10,000 naira. You know, there they don't do that.
They'll tell you this is the actual rate. So if we have that and we have an automation in the payment process where you just log in whatever details that you have, and there will be a system to calculate what you need to even pay as duty. It will ease the process. You can even make findings before you bring in whatever goods you want to do. You can say, okay, if I'm bringing it, let's say for a car, and I'm expected to pay, I'm buying it at $10,000. What is expected of my tariff to pay? You have an idea. No, this is high, this is low. You already have a foresight.
So you can plan whether you will go ahead with the buying of the car.
But situation where it's subjective.
And you're not sure.
Somebody, an agent has to go, and we are even losing revenue. Then the guy will be doing you a favor by saying, sir, you are supposed to have done this, you are doing this. There are better ways. Automation is there. You see, everybody complains that they queue, they pay demo rate. I'm not into that business, but we hear outside. They pay demo rate, and it's impacting on the importer. Who gets the brunt? The people that are going to buy the product. Because when you just have to break even. The essence of going into business is not a charitable organization.
It's to make profit.
So, situation where you have paid all those things at the port and it's not been done. So, we feel our port operation should be automated. Payment process, scanners, make things easy, and we'll get benefit
the very
for it.
critical and crucial one are the roads to the ports. That's the very central one.
We've had Almighty Dangote coming to aid to fix the road.
We have to leave you here now, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Smart Akwejoye, for your time on the program.
Thank you for
having me. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Right, you're watching TVC Breakfast. We are streaming live on YouTube. You can also connect with us on Twitter using the hashtag TVC Breakfast.